Hello, everyone. Welcome back. On July 17, 2024, Catalina Gutierrez's body was tragically found in the back seat of her mother's car. That evening, Catalina had borrowed the car to go to the mall for a fun night of bowling with her boyfriend and friends. However, the car was later discovered abandoned about 1.25 miles from Catalina's home, partially burned. Authorities quickly began searching for the person responsible, only to find that the culprit was closer than they could have imagined. Catalina was born in 2003 in Eras, a small town in Córdoba province, Argentina. She grew up in the city of Córdoba after her family moved there when she was young. Córdoba is the second largest city in Argentina, and it was here that Catalina spent her childhood alongside her older sister, Lucia. From a young age, Catalina was known for her curiosity and eagerness to learn. She loved traveling, playing the guitar, and singing, often recording songs with her father in her free time. Inspired by her father's profession as an architect, Catalina decided to follow in his footsteps and study architecture at the National University of Córdoba. At university, Catalina made many friends who described her as cheerful and friendly. Alongside her studies, she was active on social media, where she posted photos and videos of her travels, her dog, and outings with friends. Although she considered social media a hobby, her content quickly went viral, amassing over 115,000 followers on Instagram and 47,000 on TikTok by 2024. In 2024, Catalina started dating a fellow student named Ezekiel, and the two quickly became inseparable. Friends and family noticed how in love they seemed, never suspecting the tragedy that would soon unfold. On July 17, 2024, Catalina borrowed her mother's car, a Renault Clio, to meet Ezekiel and her friends at a mall for a night of bowling. At 21 years old, Catalina was in the final days of her college vacation and wanted to make the most of her time. Although her mother, Eleonora, was concerned about her daughters going out at night, Catalina assured her that she would be safe at the mall, surrounded by friends. Despite her fears, Eleonora agreed to let Catalina go out, but insisted that she stay in constant contact, updating her on her whereabouts throughout the evening. Catalina left home around 9 p.m., sending a voice message to Ezekiel, letting him know she was on her way and asking him to wait for her in the mall parking lot. However, Catalina never arrived. As time passed, Ezekiel and their friends became increasingly worried. The drive from Catalina's house to the mall should have taken about 15 minutes. But over 30 minutes had passed with no sign of her. They tried calling her multiple times, but she didn't answer, and none of their messages were returned. Growing more concerned, Ezekiel contacted Catalina's sister, Lucia, asking if Catalina had come back home, but Lucia said she hadn't. Panic set in, and Lucia immediately informed their mother about the situation. When Marcelo, Catalina's father, arrived home a little before 1 a.m., he was told about his daughter's disappearance. Marcelo desperately tried calling Catalina, but he couldn't reach her. Fearing the worst, Catalina's parents and sister rushed to the police station to file a missing person report. Shortly after, Ezekiel and Catalina's friends also arrived at the station to provide information, including the voice message Catalina had sent Ezekiel that evening. Catalina's friends and acquaintances were frantically reaching out to anyone who might have information about her whereabouts. Among those contacted was Nestor Daniel Aguilar, a 21-year-old architecture student who was a close friend of Catalina's. Nestor had moved to Córdoba in 2021 to pursue his studies, and that's where he and Catalina became friends. Living alone in Córdoba, far from his family who resided in Bariloche, a tourist city in southern Argentina, Nestor found comfort in the friendship he formed with Catalina. Feeling sorry for him being so far from home, Catalina often invited Nestor to her house, where he quickly became a familiar face to her family. She even gave him rides to the university daily, as he lived nearby and didn't have a car. Nestor was a regular at family gatherings and parties at Catalina's house, and they often worked together on university projects. Their friendship was strong, so naturally, Catalina's other friends thought Nestor might know something. However, when they reached out to him, Nestor claimed he hadn't spoken to Catalina that night and had no idea where she could be. He expressed deep concern and said he would go to the police station to assist in any way he could. When Nestor arrived at the police station, he was quick to offer his support to Catalina's family, vowing to help find her. In the midst of this, Catalina's sister Lucia remembered that months earlier, she and Catalina had activated the location-sharing feature on their phones to keep track of each other. Lucia also had access to Catalina's account and decided to use this to find her sister's phone. The phone's location pointed to a neighborhood called Ampliation Kennedy, about 1.25 miles from their house. A police team quickly headed to the location and found the partially burned car. Inside, they made a heartbreaking discovery. Catalina's body was lying in the back seat. There were no bullet wounds or stab marks, but there were signs of physical assault. The car's interior reeked of alcohol, with the seats soaked in the flammable liquid. It was clear that the perpetrator had doused the car with alcohol and set it on fire. However, the doors had been closed, which limited the oxygen supply, causing the fire to extinguish before consuming the entire vehicle. Although Catalina's body had suffered some burns, the fire had not caused significant damage before it went out. Catalina's body was then sent for an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death. News of Catalina's fate quickly spread among her friends, leaving them devastated. Nestor, in particular, was deeply affected, crying alongside Catalina's parents as they mourned her loss. The police soon ruled out robbery as a motive since all of Catalina's belongings were still with her. Instead, they began to consider the possibility of revenge and started interviewing everyone close to Catalina. Among those questioned, Nestor caught the investigators' attention. During his testimony, Nestor claimed he had been at home all night. However, as the questioning continued, his story began to contradict itself. The investigators decided to ask for his cell phone to conduct a thorough investigation. Nestor handed over his phone and was released afterward. During the examination of his phone, investigators discovered that Nestor's GPS data placed him in the same location where Catalina's body was found. With this new information, the police went to Nestor's house and asked him to come back to the station. At the station, they questioned him again about his whereabouts on the night of the crime. Once more, Nestor insisted he had been at home, but as the interrogation continued, he became increasingly nervous. He started fidgeting, looking around anxiously, and even trembling. Finally, Nestor admitted that he hadn't been at home the entire night. He recalled that around 8 p.m., he had gone out to practice martial arts and then returned home afterward. When the police questioned Nestor about whether he had communicated with Catalina that day, he denied it. He also claimed he was unaware that Catalina planned to meet her friends and boyfriend that night. However, the investigators knew he was lying, as one of Catalina's friends had invited him at her request. Catalina had specifically wanted Nestor to join them so they could have fun together. When confronted with this information, Nestor grew increasingly nervous. Eventually, after a long silence, he confessed to the crime. Nestor revealed to the investigators that Catalina was the love of his life, and in a shocking admission, he confessed to taking her life. As he began to confess, the police listened but soon interrupted him, informing him that he would need a lawyer. Although they now had the perpetrator in custody, the police still needed to understand the full dynamics of the crime and the motivations behind it. Nestor was placed under preventive arrest, but details of the crime were not immediately released as the investigation continued. Nestor's confession sent shockwaves through Catalina's friends and family. Many were in disbelief, with some even suspecting that he was fabricating the story due to the shock of losing his friend. Catalina's parents were particularly devastated. They had always treated Nestor well, welcoming him into their home like a member of the family. The loss of their daughter was already a crushing blow, but discovering that the person responsible was someone she trusted and cared for made it even more unbearable. Marcelo Gutierrez, Catalina's father, shared in an interview how Nestor had been present throughout the search, offering support and pretending to know nothing about Catalina's whereabouts. Lucia Gutierrez, Catalina's sister, also expressed her disbelief. She mentioned how much Catalina had trusted Nestor, saying their friendship was strong, but Catalina never indicated that Nestor wanted anything more than friendship. The murder of Catalina Gutierrez reverberated throughout Córdoba and eventually across the entire country. Many of her social media followers expressed their sorrow and shock at the news. The case garnered significant media attention and was covered extensively on television. As the story spread, other girls came forward, claiming to have been victims of Nestor. One young woman, who chose to remain anonymous, shared her experiences on social media, stating that she had studied with Nestor in high school and had encountered several unsettling situations with him. She described how Nestor had stalked her throughout her adolescence, and although she reported the incidents to the school principal, no action was taken. Another girl recounted a terrifying experience at a school camp. According to her, Nestor waited until everyone was asleep before sneaking into her tent and attempting to assault her. She screamed, causing Nestor to flee. Like the other girl, she had reported Nestor to the school authorities, but they didn't take her complaints seriously. She expressed regret for not going to the police at the time, believing that if she had, stronger action might have been taken against him. She concluded her account by saying that if the school had listened to her, perhaps Catalina's death could have been prevented. Neither Catalina nor her family had any knowledge of Nestor's dark past. Everyone who knew him in Córdoba described him as calm and polite, showing no signs of malice. The autopsy on Catalina's body revealed that she had died from suffocation, but it was unclear whether this was caused by hands or an object. There were signs of physical assault on her face and arms, but no evidence of sexual assault. The autopsy also determined that Catalina was already dead when the vehicle was set on fire. She had been tied and gagged, but it was uncertain whether this had happened before or after her death. This information was crucial in determining whether Nestor had planned the crime in advance. While the authorities continued their investigation to piece together the details of the crime, Catalina's family prepared for her funeral. Catalina's wake was held at a cemetery in Córdoba and was attended by hundreds of people. The family decided only to hold the wake for the time being, as they intended to cremate Catalina's body and scatter her ashes in Buenos Aires, where she was born. However, they had to wait for authorization from the authorities, as the investigation was still ongoing and further analysis of her body might be required. Lucia, Catalina's sister, took to social media to express her grief and call for justice. She posted an emotional video compilation of photos of her and Catalina together, saying goodbye to her beloved sister. In the same post, she shared a heartfelt letter that read, "You couldn't have been a better sister. Now we are two in one person, and wherever you are, I hope you are at peace. Never leave me alone and always help me. I will need you all my life, together in this life and all those that lie ahead. Heaven is celebrating. I love you with all my heart, my guardian angel." After Lucia posted her farewell, comments poured in from friends, family, and people following the case, offering condolences and demanding justice. Lucia later posted a childhood photo of her and Catalina, along with a picture of a tattoo she had gotten in her sister's honor, Catalina's name and an angel's wing inked on the inside of her arm. The police theorized that Nestor took Catalina's life in his apartment. Investigators believe that Nestor lured Catalina to his place under the pretense of wanting to go to the mall with her. This theory was confirmed after police accessed security camera footage from locations near both Nestor's apartment and where Catalina's body was discovered. The footage revealed Catalina's last movements that night. One camera, situated across from Nestor's residence, captured him carrying Catalina's body to his Renault Clio. The footage also showed him placing her in the back seat, in the same position as when authorities later found her. Another video depicted the vehicle driving along a street at 10:22 p.m., a route that matched the path from Nestor's apartment to the location where the car was eventually abandoned with Catalina's body inside. During a search of Nestor's apartment, police found a ring that belonged to Catalina. It's unclear whether she left it there willingly or if Nestor took it from her. In addition to the ring, strands of Catalina's hair were found scattered throughout the apartment. The clothes Nestor wore on the day of the crime were discovered in the washing machine. Authorities determined that Catalina arrived at Nestor's apartment around 9:30 p.m. on July 17th. An hour later, Nestor abandoned the Renault Clio about 1.86 miles from his apartment. The main line of investigation suggests that Nestor was aware that Catalina planned to go bowling at the mall with her boyfriend and some friends that evening. Catalina had even asked a mutual friend to invite Nestor to join them. It was arranged that Catalina would pick Nestor up from his apartment, and they would head to the mall together. Nestor was supposed to be waiting outside when she arrived to save time, but when she got there, he was not. Nestor made an excuse and asked Catalina to come up to his apartment, which was part of his plan. A security camera in front of the building recorded Catalina exiting her vehicle and entering the building. Inside the apartment, it's believed Nestor made unwanted advances toward Catalina, which she rejected, leading to an argument. Overcome with anger and frustration, Nestor attacked Catalina until she was unconscious and then suffocated her. It's unclear if Nestor realized Catalina was dead, but he proceeded to tie and gag her before placing her body in the back seat of the Renault Clio. He then drove the vehicle to a remote location, where he set it on fire in an attempt to destroy evidence. Nestor hoped the fire would consume any traces of the crime, but after pouring alcohol inside the vehicle and igniting it, he closed the doors and windows, causing the fire to quickly extinguish due to a lack of oxygen. Afterward, Nestor returned to his apartment. With all the evidence collected, Nestor was formally charged and imprisoned. During an interview, Marcelo Gutierrez, Catalina's father, expressed his trust in the Argentine justice system and advised other parents to be vigilant about their children's friends. Catalina's mother, Eleonora, admitted she didn't know how to continue living without her daughter. Although the investigation pointed to Nestor as the sole perpetrator, new information surfaced suggesting that others might have been involved. A witness living near where the Renault Clio was abandoned reported hearing multiple people arguing about whether to set the car on fire. While the witness couldn't identify the individuals, security footage from nearby streets showed Nestor turning a corner at 11:01 p.m. 3 minutes later, another car appeared and parked next to the Renault Clio. A man exited this vehicle, approached Nestor, and after a brief exchange, Nestor returned to his apartment while the man set the Renault Clio on fire. The police doubted Nestor's claim that he walked back to his apartment because the distance was nearly 1.86 miles, which would have taken about 25 minutes. Yet, he returned in just 4 minutes, leading authorities to suspect he had help from someone in a vehicle. It's unclear if this person only assisted Nestor in returning to his apartment or had a direct role in the crime. Nestor continues to insist he acted alone, but authorities are still investigating the possibility of an accomplice. Nestor Daniel Aguilar remains imprisoned in a medium-security facility in Argentina. His trial is expected to take place between late 2024 and early 2025. If convicted, Nestor could face the maximum penalty allowed in Argentina, life in prison. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more shocking and compelling stories ahead.